Case 1. Genene Jones. Between 1978 and 1982, two hospitals in Texas saw a disturbing spike in infant deaths. Parents watched helplessly as their healthy babies suddenly went into distress, while nurses quietly discussed strange patterns they had begun to notice. It soon became clear that infants were 25 times more likely to suffer cardiac arrest when one specific nurse was on duty, Genene Jones. Jones, a licensed vocational nurse, seemed to crave the adrenaline of medical emergencies. She would inject babies with muscle relaxants and painkillers, deliberately putting them in critical condition so she could step in as the savior. Investigators later concluded that Jones may have been responsible for the deaths of up to 60 infants and children. On September 17, 1982, 15-month-old Chelsea McClellan stopped breathing after Jones gave her an injection. Her devastated mother recalled, "Chelsea was trying to say my name, but she couldn't." When police investigated, they found puncture medication bottles, missing drugs, and a disturbing diary entry where Jones wrote, "I swear I was born to be a murderer." In 1984, she was sentenced to 99 years in prison for Chelsea's murder and another 60 years for injuring another child. Because of prison overcrowding, she was initially set for release in 2018, but prosecutors filed new charges linking her to several more murders from the 1980s. In January 2020, facing overwhelming evidence, Jones pleaded guilty to killing 11-month-old Joshua Sawyer and received a life sentence. Now 75 years old, Genene Jones remains incarcerated at the Murray Unit in Gatesville, Texas, where she will spend the rest of her life, ensuring she can never harm another innocent child again. Case 2. Rosemary West. At 25, Cromwell Street in Gloucester, England, a seemingly ordinary home concealed horrors beyond imagination. For years, Rosemary West and her husband, Fred West, subjected young women and girls to unthinkable torture, assault, and murder. Many of their victims were buried in the cellar and garden, including their own 16-year-old daughter, Heather. Rose first met Fred in 1969, when she was just 15 years old. He was 27, unkempt, and deeply disturbed. Despite her initial disgust, she eventually moved in with him. While Fred served 6 months in prison in 1971, Rose murdered his 8-year-old stepdaughter, Charmaine, beating her to death. The couple married in 1972, turning their home into a house of pain and suffering. They lured vulnerable young women with promises of shelter or work, only to imprison and abuse them. Victims endured horrific torture before being killed and dismembered. Rose personally took part in at least 10 murders, including that of Shirley Robinson, a tenant who was pregnant with Fred's child. The reign of terror finally ended in 1994, when police investigating Heather's disappearance unearthed human remains in the garden. Over the next several days, 9 bodies were recovered from Cromwell Street. Fred confessed to 12 murders, but hanged himself in prison before his trial. Rosemary faced justice alone. After a 7-week trial in 1995, she was found guilty of 10 murders. The judge described her actions as appalling, depraved, and sentenced her to life imprisonment with a whole life tariff, meaning she will never be released. Now 71 years old, Rosemary West is held at HM Prison Newhall in West Yorkshire. The Cromwell Street house was demolished in 1996, erased from sight, but not from memory. Though Rose still claims innocence, the law ensures she will spend the rest of her life behind bars. Case 3. Joanna Dennehy. In March 2013, over the span of just 10 days, Joanna Dennehy went on a shocking killing spree across Peterborough, England. She murdered 3 men before driving to Hereford, where she randomly stabbed 2 strangers. Her motive was chillingly simple. She said she wanted to have fun. Dennehy, then 31, deliberately targeted men. She told her accomplices she planned to kill 9 people, inspired by the outlaw couple Bonnie and Clyde. Her first victim was Łukasz Slabazewski, a Polish man who believed she was his girlfriend. After drinking together, she blindfolded him and stabbed him through the heart, later hiding his body in a garbage bin and even showing it off to a 14-year-old girl. "It got addictive," she reportedly said. "I got a taste for it." 10 days later, Dennehy murdered her 56-year-old roommate, John Chapman, texting an accomplice afterward, "Oops, I've done it again." Just hours later, she killed her 48-year-old landlord and lover, Kevin Lee, dressing his corpse in a sequin black dress before dumping it in a ditch, his body deliberately posed. Still not satisfied, Dennehy drove to Hereford, where she attacked 2 random dog walkers within minutes of each other, leaving both for dead. Miraculously, both men survived. Police arrested Dennehy on April 2nd, 2013. She laughed, flirted, and joked during her arrest, showing no remorse. At trial, she pleaded guilty to all charges. Justice Spencer described her as cruel, calculating, selfish, and manipulative, adding that she took sexual pleasure in inflicting pain. On February 28, 2014, Dennehy was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life order, making her only the 3rd woman in UK history to receive that punishment. Now 42 years old, Joanna Dennehy remains behind bars at HMP Low Newton, where she will spend the rest of her life, never to walk free again. Case 4, Sharon Carr. At just 12 years old, Sharon Carr became the youngest female murderer in British history when she brutally stabbed 18-year-old hairdresser Katie Ratcliffe 32 times in June 1992. The sheer savagery of the attack left investigators stunned. Katie's mutilated body was discovered near a cemetery in Farnborough, her genitals having been violently attacked. The brutality led police to believe the killer must have been an adult male, and the case went cold for 2 years. Meanwhile, Sharon, nicknamed the Devil's Daughter, continued living freely. In 1994, while detained in a young offenders institution for stabbing a schoolgirl, she began boasting about the murder. Prison staff discovered a chilling diary filled with disturbing confessions. "I'm a killer. Killing is my business, and business is good. If only I could kill you again, I'd make you suffer more. Your terrified screams turn me on." She revealed crime scene details only the real killer could have known. During police interviews, Sharon even laughed as she reenacted the murder. Detective Sergeant Paul Clemens later recalled her complete lack of emotion, saying, "There was a coldness, no feeling at all." Born in Belize, Sharon endured severe abuse growing up. Her mother reportedly poured pepper on her genitals as punishment and practiced voodoo, torturing animals in front of her. Sharon herself once decapitated a dog with a spade. Experts diagnosed her with schizoaffective disorder and multiple personality disorder. In March 1997, Sharon Carr was convicted of murder at Winchester Crown Court and sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 14 years. Now 45 years old, she remains at HMP Bronfield. In 2020, her request for release was denied after it was revealed she still fantasized about killing another inmate. Sharon Carr is expected to spend the rest of her life in prison, her violent impulses too dangerous ever to be set free. Case 5, Yolanda Saldívar. On March 31st, 1995, the world lost one of its brightest stars, Selena Quintanilla, the queen of Tejano music. That morning, Selena met Yolanda Saldívar at a Days and Motel in Corpus Christi, Texas, to retrieve missing financial records. Saldívar, 34, had been the president of Selena's fan club and managed her fashion boutiques. But the singer's family had recently uncovered that Saldívar had been embezzling money. She was fired shortly before the meeting. That day, Saldívar delayed Selena by claiming she'd been sexually assaulted in Mexico. Out of concern, Selena drove her to hospital, but no exam took place. When they returned to the motel, Selena once again demanded the documents. Instead, Saldívar pulled a .38 caliber Taurus revolver from her purse and shot Selena in the right shoulder. The bullet severed an artery. Bleeding heavily, Selena ran toward the motel lobby while Saldívar chased after her, shouting insults. Witnesses heard Selena scream, Yolanda Saldívar shot me. Lock the door, she'll shoot me again." Moments later, Selena collapsed. She was pronounced dead at 10:05 a.m. Saldívar barricaded herself in a pickup truck for nearly 10 hours, sobbing and claiming she hadn't meant to kill anyone. She insisted the shooting was an accident, saying she bought the gun to kill herself, not Selena. But prosecutors pointed out that she never called 911 or tried to help, despite being a trained nurse. After a brief 3-hour deliberation, A jury convicted Saldívar of first-degree murder on October 23, 1995. She was sentenced to life in prison with eligibility for parole after 30 years. Her first parole hearing, held in March 2025, was denied. Her next review is scheduled for 2030. Now 64 years old, Yolanda Saldívar remains incarcerated at the Patrick L. O'Daniel unit in Gatesville, Texas, where she is expected to spend the rest of her life behind bars, forever remembered as the woman who took the life of a beloved icon. Case 6. Juana Barraza, the little old lady killer. For years, elderly women across Mexico City were found strangled to death in their homes. Police dubbed the unknown murderer La Mataviejitas the little old lady killer. At first, investigators believed they were looking for a man, possibly even a cross-dresser. They couldn't have been more wrong. On January 25, 2006, 48-year-old Juana Barraza was seen fleeing the home of Ana Maria de Los Reyes Alfaro, an 82-year-old woman who had just been strangled with a stethoscope. A witness alerted police, leading to Barraza's arrest. To everyone's astonishment, the suspect wasn't a man at all. She was a former professional wrestler known in the ring as La Dama del Silencio, the Silent Lady. Barraza had posed as a government social worker to gain the trust of her elderly victims, most of whom lived alone. Once inside, she robbed and strangled them. Many of the women reminded her of her abusive mother, the same woman who had once traded her to a man for 3 beers when she was just a child. That man repeatedly raped her, leaving scars that never healed. Fingerprint evidence linked Barraza to at least 10 murders, though she confessed to 3, including Alfaro's. Prosecutors believed she killed between 40 and 48 elderly women from the late 1990s through 2006, making her one of Mexico's most prolific serial killers. In 2008, Barraza was convicted of 16 counts of murder and aggravated burglary, receiving a staggering 759-year sentence, the longest in Mexican history. However, under Mexican law, the maximum she can serve is 60 years, which she is expected to complete in full. Now 67 years old, Juana Barraza remains in prison at Santa Marta Acatitla Prison in Mexico City. She reportedly works as a gym instructor and sells tacos to other inmates. She even married a fellow prisoner in 2015, though the relationship ended 2 years later. Juana Barraza will almost certainly die behind bars, a grim end for the woman once celebrated as a silent lady in the wrestling ring, but later infamous as the little old lady killer.